Lee, and I'm going to do a couple of tutorials here to show you how to use this translation software by Systran, systransoft.com, or in France, systran.fr. That important little detail to know if you're in Quebec, in Canada, and you're looking for the French documentation. There's a couple of shortcuts you might want to have on your desktop if you work with it a lot. And I've got the document aligner here. I haven't used that yet. I'm a relatively new user, I'll admit it. And then here is the interactive translator, and that's probably going to be your first main program to use around this. But there's also the dictionary manager. And the dictionary, the SDM, Systran Dictionary Manager, is a very valuable tool that helps you customize and further enhance the features and the power of the translation software by letting you create additional content in the existing dictionary. And depending on which version you have, such as the premium version I have here in this case, you'll also be able to create additional dictionaries, and not just regular user dictionaries, but also normalization dictionaries that might do some corrections, error corrections, but then also straight passing forward translation, kind of literal, not really translation. I mean, you do the translation once and then you keep it in memory. It's what we call a TM, a translation memory. There is a couple of other things. If you're working on big projects, you might want to take a look at Systran Translation Project Manager. That's the STPM. And then there is also a customization wizard. And hopefully we'll be able to look at all of these. Let's just start it with the first one here, the Systran Interactive Translator. I'll just double click that and open that. And if you don't have your license yet, you'll probably see something like this. Enter your serial number or go purchase it online. In my case, I have a trial period, still good for a few weeks, so I'll use that. This is a limited version I have that just lets me translate from English to French. In the lower right screen corner, you will see, and it's off the recording area in my case here, but you'll see a tip of the day. And things you might want to do is just get started. The first thing you're always curious, of course, is what does it do when you type something in and see if it's translating it right. There's a number of languages available, but again, only those that your license allows you to use are actually enabled. So let's say I'm going to say, hello, my name is Philip. Right, you wait a second and you get it translated to Bonjour, mon nom est Philippe. Alright, well, that's great. That was kind of expected to work. On the right side, you see some interesting details. You can hide that if you don't need it, but it gives you sometimes alternate offers, alternate words, a lot of other things that you might find very valuable. So let's keep an eye on that. Let's close it for the time being. There's a couple of icons you might want to look at here as well. There's some options that goes into the global options dialog. We'll probably have a look at that. Here's a couple of quick shortcuts, and then this one's pretty important too, because this is where you can see the source word or expression and the translation. So for instance, if I select one, like I click or I select, I don't have to select the whole thing actually. I can just click on name, and then you go here and you see source's name, and the translation is non. Alright, now there may be other words that could match that depending on the meaning that you're going for, and so that's why you see un grand nom, un nom, or a reputation, and then you might even find your own. You can add additional ones here. Or you can say that's what you want to use in this case. So you would type that in and it would then show it here, replacing non with whatever you type in as an alternate translation. You can also indicate here, what is this? Is this a noun or is it a verb? Like in this case, of course, my name is Philip, that's a noun, but name could be to name somebody or to name something, so that could be a verb in a different context. And typically it finds out what it is, but sometimes you might want to overwrite that. We'll see some examples. So here's an example of something that's going to be a little bit more advanced, and that is if we use something that should actually stay untranslated, like a literal expression, typically a name or something that is a multiple expression, multiple words, and they need to stay in that order and not be translated. For instance, a product name, right? For instance, I don't know, think of a digital painting program. Hey, Project Dog Waffle, why not? So what happens if you have Project Dog Waffle? Well, it will probably see it doesn't know what that is. That's a weird word. Well, first of all, That's okay. That's kind of expected. But beyond that, what if you have a sentence that uses that? If we say something like, we used Project Dog Waffle. We used Project, let's use it capitalized, Project Dog Waffle, Professional, 7 Howler, okay, for digital painting. Alright, let's see what it does there. Nous avons utilisé l'hurleur du professionnel set de Dog Waffle de projet pour la peinture digitale. This is actually a proper translation of Howler, l'hurleur. But we don't want to translate that, right? So what we'll need is to select this and have perhaps this whole expression here. Project Dog Waffle Professional 7 Howler. Have all this stuck as a expression that should not be translated. So how do you do that? Well, you can go right here and say add to dictionary, right? And when you add this to a dictionary, you'll get to say what it is you want to add, and it takes the selection you already have there, so Project Dog Waffle Professional, and then what does it currently do with it? The translation is this. Well, that's certainly not what we want. Now, one thing you could do is just replace it by putting that thing in there, right? Make a copy of it and just keep it. But there's an even better way, and I'll explain why. One thing that we do is we can say, yeah, let's put it into a user dictionary, but actually let's not even translate it. Okay, I mean, there's a couple of other ways to process it, but they all have some distinct advantages or disadvantages. One thing that we say when we say it's not to be translated, this will be an entry in a dictionary in which it will say, hey, okay, so don't translate it. Okay, Personal English to French Dictionary is one of the dictionaries that I have here, and it will just be added as a entry that should not be translated when it appears in exactly this sequence. Sequence of words, uppercase, and so on, that sort of things is going to be taken in consideration. There's a couple of other things we could specify, particularly the category. I'm going to do the mistake here and just leave it as auto, and I'll explain soon why. When we do auto, it will try to determine by itself, the software will see if it's a noun or maybe a verb or an adjective or a sequence and so on. Right? If it's auto, it may go the wrong way, and then we'll see what we can do about that. So let's go and add this to the dictionary. Okay, cannot analyze. Oh, maybe that's because I don't know if I'm online or something like that. So what I'm going to do is just launch there it is, the dictionary, and in the dictionary I have the Personal English to French Dictionary, and there is a Project Dog Waffle Howler. So here's a fairly long expression that was just added, but it doesn't have a lot of confidence about it. Well, it doesn't really need to. We're telling it not to translate, right? But it also did this one little thing here, which is auto, that we left it at, and it turned it into a noun. It thinks it's a noun. Now let's see what happens. It translated this, right? So we have nous avons utilisé le Project Dog Waffle Professional 7 Howler pour la peinture digitale. And that's good. That's better than before. You know, we have the whole expression here stays as it is because we asked it not to be translated. But it still thinks it's a noun, and it needs this le in front of it, right? The Project Dog Waffle. Somebody honking at me here. I'm outdoor in the limo. Sorry about that. Le Project Dog Waffle Professional 7. So how do we get rid of that? Well, what we can do, we can go to the dictionary, and in the dictionary we can say, yep, we keep it that way. Do not translate, but even more, don't consider this a noun. Right? Don't let it auto turn into a noun. Instead, we could say keep it as a sequence as it is, or proper noun. Proper noun is like a first name, last name. It could be a company name, that sort of things, and that typically does not get processed the same way as a regular noun. It doesn't have a gender. It won't be a male or a female, le ou la, or plural forms. It doesn't get an S in a plural form. So it's processed different from a regular noun. Let's go and double click that to have it coded. And yeah, okay, so it's a bit sophisticated and it's not very confident that that's the right way to do it. But let's go and save it and go and retranslate it. And so now we have a better translation. Nous avons utilisé Project Dog Waffle Professional 7 Howler pour la peinture digitale. That's perfect. All right, so we are able to customize and teach the system how to work around exceptions or sophisticated complex scenarios. And that's really one of the advanced features of Systran software I definitely think you will want to explore and enjoy.